we get into this conversation today, I want the ones who are watching to think about something. Think about the last time you wanted to say no, but said yes anyway. What were you afraid would happen? Would they get angry? Would they think that you were selfish? Would they stop calling you? Would they question your faith? Or maybe the hardest part wasn't their reaction. Maybe it was what saying no made you think about yourself. But today I am joined by our special guest, Miss Karen Lanxon, and she's going to be talking about the part of setting boundaries that people don't talk about enough and the guilt that comes after them. So let's welcome her to
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So I am.
absolutely.
Thank you so much. So I'm Karen Lanxon. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas, and I specialize in offering Christian counseling to burnt out moms. And for the very reason we're talking about today, just helping them create those boundaries because they're burnt out, they're feeling guilty. A lot of times, those who are Christians, they feel that imbalance and doubting their faith or thinking they're not pleasing God because they can't do it all, or they're feeling guilty because they want to step back, but they don't know how. And so I just really enjoy helping them just first realize that it's okay to have those boundaries, it's okay to have those feelings, and even tracing the root to why they feel they have to meet those unrealistic expectations, really. So, yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you here. I know you have an abundance of information to help those moms and people in general get to their next level of peace.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, what are some signs that a person doesn't actually have a busy life problem? They have a boundary problem.
So I would say one of the main reasons or ways that you can tell that it's not just about the busyness, but the boundaries is when they look around, they have the family they pray for, they have the career that they prayed for, they love it all. And so it's about they've been pouring out, but they've never stepped back to include themselves in the task or the things that they need to take time for. And so that's I think that's what makes the guilt come in so much is because they know they're blessed. So why do they feel this way? And the key thing is that they haven't taken time for themselves. And so that's one of the biggest things that they can know that it's not the busyness so much as it is they need those boundaries in place.
All right. Sound like you're saying boundaries has a little bit to do with self care as well.
Yes, for sure. Yes,
Mhm. They go hand in hand.
very much so.
And I think because sometimes, exhaustion is the symptom of the
Uh-huh.
boundary, not setting boundaries. So if you kind of like step back and say, let me take care of me, that kind of
Hmm.
automatically helps with the boundaries because the boundary, if you're going to take care of you, the boundary will be, I need to stop doing this extra overabundance of
Right.
things that's not even
Right.
really nurturing me.
The very thing they've been blessed with, they pour so much time into that they forget that, hold on, this is actually for me, not to burn me out, but to,
Mhm.
fulfill me or make me feel energized, but also self is still part of that, what you need to pour into.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which would help with the guilt because people already feel guilty about self care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's like, yeah, they really do go hand in hand. Because if you feel guilty about self care and boundaries is a part of self care, and you feel guilty about setting boundaries,
Yes.
yeah, work
Yeah.
on both of them simultaneously.
Yes.
But why can saying no feel emotionally unsafe for someone who has spent years being the helper, the fixer, the peacemaker, or the strong one?
Yes, good question. And so the way I like to explain it is that, our brains and our nervous system are trained to keep us safe and comfortable. And that's not necessarily always what's best for us. And so if I'm always used to being the one that's pouring out and doing the things and always saying yes and being the strong friend, all those things, when I begin to step away, it's uncomfortable. And so our bodies and our minds start to tell us, mm-mm, that's not right. That's not what we used to do. And girl, don't do that. And so that's when the guilt comes in, and the sadness, as though I'm doing something wrong, but it's not that you're doing something wrong. You're doing something new, which makes it uncomfortable. But
Mm.
eventually, as you retrain your brain and retrain yourself, the very thing will also become. You may not ever fully get used to it because you're a helper, right? It's in your nature. But you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because it's necessary, you know.
Well, once a person kind of shifts their mindset and think
Mm-hmm.
about setting boundaries and things like that, and you talk about the comfort, being comfortable, and I
Mm-hmm.
know there's no right answer, but I just want people to see this
Yeah.
from a perspective of a therapist. How long does it take for a person to get comfortable with setting those boundaries once they set them, or even once they start thinking about it? Like kind of
Mm-hmm.
like walk through that little time frame, or if it is a time frame.
So I like to um, use this analogy with clients of, if I had, and I saw this video years ago and I can't find the video, so I just be telling the story because I can't remember who to give credit to. But just imagine yourself having two pitchers. One of the clear pitchers is filled with water. The other pitcher is filled with ping pong balls, right? The ping pong balls represent all the overwhelm, the guilt, the trauma, even maybe all those things that have been suppressed or that you've gone through. And then the water represents all the good things, the boundaries that you're learning, the therapy that you're coming to, the things you're trying to implement. And so every time you implement it, you're pouring more and more water into the pitcher with the ping pong balls. And so I always ask the question, okay, so as you keep pouring the water in, what's going to happen to the ping pong balls? And they're like, they'll start to rise up, right? And so I tell them, as you're on this journey of healing and learning, the boundaries and all of those things, the guilt and the trauma and all those things you ain't been talking about are going to rise to the top, and it's going to be very uncomfortable. Matter of fact, it may get worse before it gets better, because now you're wrestling your body like no, but you're like yes, no, you're going through all these things. But I tell them, but you got to keep pouring in the water, keep pouring in the good stuff, the things that you know are best for you. And then I say, what eventually will happen? And they'll say, they'll fall out, right? And I say, yes. Now, when they fall out, you might still see them on the floor, you might still see them on the table, but they're not consuming you anymore. So, in other words, we don't make promises, in therapy, or that life will become perfect. You'll still have moments of guilt, but the guilt will become less, and the confidence will become more. So,
Oh, that is
God show
good.
grace. Yeah.
And so the ping pong balls, kind of like with that comfort, the time zone depends on how many ping pong balls you have
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
much water you pouring
Sure.
into the vase. So
Mhm.
that's why nobody has a time frame that's equivalent to
Right.
each other's. Yeah, that's good. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
Thank you for that analogy.
Mhm. Yes,
So what
ma'am.
do you say to the person who thinks, if I start setting boundaries, people are going to think I've changed?
Well, I will say they probably will. you know, I'm gonna be real with you. Yep,
Or
they
they
probably
should
will.
anyway. They
They
supposed to change.
should.
Yeah.
They should. But the key is, what I tell them is, but you, because they fear not only that they notice that they're changing, but the fear of being rejected or losing people in their lives. And I said, well, these are the moments that you're giving those people the opportunity to show who they really are. And so if you never say no, you'll never really know, are they legit? Are they really your people? And if they walk away, then they weren't ever your people in the first place. And so you have to give people the opportunity to show who they are. You can't speak for them. That fear and that guilt will almost cause you to claim somebody as someone that they really aren't. And so you have to give them the opportunity to show who they are. And so when you start setting those boundaries and start saying no, their response is going to show you who they are and if you need them in your life anyways.
Absolutely. That will help set them apart from the people who nurture you and the people who are
Mhm.
no naysayers, the ones you should stay
Yep.
away from. And then
Hmm.
it helps you to know if you're a people pleaser If you don't like rejection,
Yeah.
if you're hyper independent or vigilant or things like that. So it also tells
Hmm.
you a lot about yourself to kind of ping pong that
Yes,
back
I
and forth.
totally agree. Uh-huh.
Like, let me do something. How do people react? Okay, that tells me something about me and what I need to do next. So it's like
Hmm.
a relationship of how to get your life in order to set those boundaries so you can have the
Yeah.
goals that you want.
Seeing
Yeah,
that
that's good.
reflection. Hmm.
Absolutely. Sometimes we think if I stop doing this, will everything fall apart? But
Hmm.
no, if you're doing it right, it shouldn't fall apart. It should actually build upon the
Build.
goals that you already
Uh-huh.
have going on and everything. So,
Right.
that's what those boundaries stop. So
Hmm.
let's make this a little practical, okay? So, how
Okay.
can someone communicate a boundary firmly and compassionately without giving a 5-minute explanation, apologizing repeatedly, or getting pulled into an argument?
So I think many people probably heard this, that no is a complete word. No, I can't. But I also encourage, my clients, because they're like, oh, but I feel so guilty when I do that. Then I say, well, just put it out there. Just say it. Just say it. Say, man, I feel real bad, but I'm not gonna be able to do that right now. Period. Just put it out there, and let them know your heart. Um, yeah, you just got to practice at it. I tell them, really it's not about getting rid of the guilt. It's feeling the guilt and doing what you need to do anyway. Say no anyway. You just got to
Mhm.
push through the guilt. If you need to, just put yourself out there. You already feel weird anyway, so just go and tell them. I feel so bad, but I'm not gonna be able to do it this time.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this is a perfect place for us to have a commercial.
All
And
right.
I want you all to stay with us because before this conversation ends, we're going to give you something practical you can start using the next time someone asks for something and you don't have the emotional capacity to give it. But I want you to think about, where are you repeatedly abandoning yourself
Mhm.
so someone else won't feel disappointed? So think about that and we'll be right back.
Awesome.
You weren't meant to break. You were set apart. What if your deepest pain was the birthplace of your greatest purpose? Meet Gingerbread, a child caught in the chaos of her mother's depression and suicide attempts. She never asked for trauma, shame, or to feel invisible, but she found something greater. Set Apart, the journey to find hope through loneliness, shame, and death is more than a book. It's the breakthrough you didn't know you needed. If you've ever said, "I'm fine," when you were falling apart. If you've ever thought, "This story isn't for me," it is. Don't let fear, excuses, or busyness rob you of healing. This book will shatter the silence, stir your soul, and remind you, you were never forgotten. You were set apart. Set Apart, the journey to find hope in times of shame, loneliness, and death, by author Virginia Dale Manning. Available now, because hope can't wait.
All right, so welcome back to the second half of Girl Talk Mental Health. If you missed the first half, she dropped some real good nuggets. She gave you a perfect analogy of what to do if you have problems with setting boundaries. So make sure you watch it, share it with a friend, because that is something that you don't want to miss. And just the visualization of those balls and the water being poured in, it just set me on a whole new level myself. So welcome back. So one thing I want to ask, and to get a little clarity for the people or whatever, is
Hmm.
could fear of rejection, abandonment, conflict, disappointing others, previous emotional wounds, all those things that keep
Uh-huh.
us from acting on what we need to act on, make a healthy boundary actually feel wrong?
Hmm.
The
Yes, it
feeling,
does.
that's, we operate off of feelings a lot. Like what you were
Yes,
saying
we do.
earlier, like just do it.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Because our feelings will lie. Not that they are not real, right? They're valid. That you have a reason for them, even, but they'll lie to you about your future and what the results are going to be. And so we have to take the knowledge that we're learning through therapy, through our faith walk, all of those things, and allow that to lead us versus our emotions, because we'll miss out on those growth opportunities and the success that God has for us. And so that's what those ping pong balls for in the water that you pour in. So as you're going and you choose to go to counseling, you choose to connect with people who will support you and be honest with you, and it helps trace the root to those things. Oh, you're afraid to not pull back or tell your kids no because you didn't have all this support when you were younger. So now you're overcompensating for the, let's say, the little Karen, right? But you don't really have to overcompensate. You do, we want to be able to learn and do better than, our past experiences, but that overcompensation for those childhood things that we have experienced, or whatever that trauma may be, or I'm afraid of rejection because this is my second marriage. And
Mhm.
so I'm afraid to say what I don't like or what I need because my last husband left me. So all of those things. Or I grew up, very religious. And so if I'm not in church, 5 times a week, that means I don't love God, and so
Yeah.
just, getting rid of those rigid beliefs and things and really learning how to walk in the liberty that God has given us, and knowing that, it's okay to take time for yourself and say no in every area, of our lives.
Now, this is your specialty. And so most of the time we go into specialties or niches because that's what we are passionate about, probably because we experienced it ourselves, right? So
Hmm.
have you had any struggles with boundaries in your life
Oh,
or what?
for sure.
Well, give us one. Tell us what's one that you struggle with.
Oh, so I can remember I had just gotten married, and I got married at the age of 19. So right out of high school, still married to the same man, to God be the glory. But 20 some years later, but shortly after that, I was placed over the children's dance ministry at my church. So learning how to do that, like pouring in a whole lot of time, not being at home as much, being a part of other ministries and dance academies and all the things, working and just staying up super late at night, and my husband had to help me and be like, Karen, you doing too much. This is not good, because it impacts your marriage, it impacts your physical health. Not too long ago, I had a few deaths in my family back to back. And so supporting family while keeping all my emotions in, I just like left the school district, was driving 40 minutes at my first job as a therapist. It was 40 minutes away, dealing with all of these deaths, and I was just going, 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 and my body began to just get sick. I was aching. And one day on my way to my 40-minute drive, I just started crying out of nowhere. I wasn't thinking about nothing. I just broke down. I was like, God, what's wrong with me? You know? And he was like, you've been doing too much. You haven't taken time.
Mhm.
You're tired, you're hurting. You haven't taken time to grieve because you were supporting family members in that process. And so there's a time, I like to call, also I'm an analogy and storyteller, right? So, when we don't process those emotions or take the time for self-care and things, it's like our balloon of emotions is just keep blowing up, getting bigger and bigger, but the balloon only have so much capacity, and eventually it will bust.
Mhm.
If you don't let the air out on your own, it's gonna bust, and that can come through crying out of nowhere, and you think you just, what's wrong with me? You can't figure it out. It can come from sickness. Now you got to go to the doctor, and a lot of times my clients do come with illnesses, physical ailments because of that stress. It's real. We hear about those things even, before maybe we were ever even a therapist, but but it's so real, and so even, stepping out to start my own private practice, God said, Karen, that same energy that you poured into all those other people, it's time to pour into yourself,
Mhm. He will
not,
shift your mindset and show you some things, that's for sure.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
And so just being able to do that same for myself, which means I would have to say no a lot more to
Mhm.
others. And that's uncomfortable. And I still get uncomfortable sometimes. I'm able to say no quicker. If I think about it as long, but afterwards, I might hang up that phone call and be like, it's okay, Karen. It's all
Yeah.
right. It's okay. So, yes,
Mhm.
it's a journey. Hmm.
So what's your favorite Bible verse that you lean on the most?
My favorite is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you. They're good and not evil to give you an expected end, a hope in a future, versus different translations say it differently, but
Mhm.
just holding on to that he knows the plans, but if we don't do self-care, we can get in the way of those plans, you know?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
rest. And a lot of people think like, oh,
Yes.
Jesus did this and Jesus was always healing. He was doing a million things. Yes, but he also rested.
Yes, he did.
And he set boundaries with people because some people they'll be like Mary and with Lazarus, like, Jesus, come help us right now. Our brother
Uh-huh.
is dying. And he's like,
He
not
was
right
like,
now.
I ain't coming yet.
Not
Nobody
right
coming.
now when I'm ready, when I feel,
Uh-huh.
when it's
Uh-huh.
time to be done or whatever. So even he set boundaries and got his
He
rest.
did.
So let there
Hmm.
be some words of wisdom and spiritual uplifting for everybody out there.
Yes.
So look, let's listen to these three situations. And what I
Okay.
want you to do, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, is to
Okay.
give people how they would handle this situation, or what it could be one or two sentences of what they could say to handle this situation to put a boundary to it.
Okay.
So, say with family, if someone expects constant access to you, and you kind of already talked about it with your situation, but what's a sentence or something that person can say to set a boundary?
I would just say I love you. And I guess like I said before, I love you, but I'm really practicing, my boundaries and I'm not going to be able to do that anymore.
Right. And that's it, nothing more.
That's it.
What about at work when someone adds additional responsibilities to your plate?
Ooh, so I guess it depends on what your job responsibilities say. However, in those moments that you know that they're out of line, I like the line to say, well, if they threaten you or they try to make you feel guilty, then you just say, well, can you show me where that's written?
Yep. We don't lose your job. Okay. We're not trying to tell you
Yes.
to go tell your boss, I'm
Yes.
not doing
Don't,
this and
be
I'm not doing that.
disrespectful
Yeah.
and just say, you tell them, okay, well, I'm not able to do that right now. I really got to get home to my family. And if they try to, say, well, I'm your boss or you supposed to be doing this and blah, 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 then you can say, well, can you please show me where that's written? Because, I don't want to be rebellious and maybe that's something I forgot about, but can you show me where that's written?
Absolutely.
And then you just
And
stand
what
there
about, yeah,
and answer it.
period. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
What about in relationships and friendships when someone becomes upset when you say no?
Oh, then it's really just about, oh, I see you upset, and if you
Sorry.
maybe say, yeah, I see you really upset about this, and maybe we can do it another time, and you can offer a time that you are available.
That part.
And again, it just shows you where people are, and
Hmm.
what type of friend they are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
our favorite, what about at church when you have all of the different responsibilities, like what you just said, and you take on more responsibilities because you feel like this is the
Mhm.
Lord's house, this is what Jesus would want me to
Yeah.
do.
I'm not volunteering. I ain't doing it.
What about if you volunteer? Like sometimes you volunteer. What you do with the volunteer? And you be like, and then another thing, they do it in front of other people so that you
Hmm.
almost can't say no, right? That's adding that
Right.
extra layer of guilt onto you, and
Hmm.
they, so that you won't say no because you in front of the head of the church or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah. And you may
Mhm.
have to take them to the side, where, and I think with boundaries too, as you learn, sometimes you go from one extreme to the other. So you might get a little gangster sometimes, you may say a little as you're practicing, right? Learning from one extreme to the other extreme. But there are moments you may have and I'll say this, you don't have to ever give anybody an answer immediately. You can
That
say,
part.
well, I can't, I'm not sure if I can commit to that right now. Can I get back to you? And that
Hmm.
gives you an opportunity too, especially if it's leadership or something in your church or whoever it may be. You don't want to seem disrespectful, especially in public around other people. But you could just say, hey, I'm not sure if I can commit to that. Can I get back to you later? And then one on one, let them know, um, I'm not going to be able to do that. And in the future, if you can ask me before you announce it, I'm going to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. You had some real good nuggets today. I appreciate
Yeah.
you. Any final words for the audience? Anything you want to leave them with before we close off?
I would just say, remember you deserve those boundaries. Either way, choose your heart. If you keep saying yes, you're going to still be burnt out. If you say no, you're going to feel guilty. So you choose your heart. Either way, you're going to have uncomfortable feelings that you have to deal with. So choose your heart, your hard, because you deserve to rest and take care of yourself. And so, yeah.
Mhm. And think about what nurtures you and your goals. So if someone asks you something and it's not nurturing you and your goals at that moment, that's a good way to set boundaries too and
Yes.
articulate it in a perfect way. So let the audience know where they can get in touch with you and if you have something going on or what you want to share with them.
Awesome sauce. So you can follow me on my Facebook or Instagram page for, more relatable content, as they say about boundaries. You can find me at Greatness Awaits Counseling Services on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also go to my website if you like at gacounselingservices.org. And under the resources, you can sign up for my free newsletter that comes with tips and a little 5-minute devotion and all the things. It's free. You can sign up for that too if you need some encouragement as well on your journey of learning to set healthy boundaries. Yeah.
Absolutely, because you have some great analogies. And if you're a visual person, she's the one to talk to too, because she can help you
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
visualize what's going on. All right. So before we leave, I want to give everyone who's watching a question to sit with. Where are you repeatedly abandoning yourself so someone else won't feel disappointed? And you don't have to rush past it. Just think about it the same way you would think about, if you have someone asking you something that you don't want to answer right quick. Think about things because your answer may reveal that exact place where your next boundary belongs. So
Yeah.
subscribe, turn on your notifications, share this episode with another awesome woman who is always there for everyone else. So we will see you next time for another therapist
Thank
takeover.
you.
And y'all have a great evening.
Great one.
Thank you for joining us for Girl Talk Mental Health. Remember, your mental health is your wealth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to at Virginia Del Manning.